Good morning, everyone. It's Steve Anderson here from the Age Diversity Forum. It is our weekly live stream event. Welcome. For those of you who follow this on a regular basis, you can watch this live now, or this is actually part of our YouTube channel inventory, so it can be seen there, after this event. So anyone live with us today, please use the chat function to ask any questions. Otherwise, you can send us an email after the event if you're watching this, if you're not watching this live. And I'm going to just get the email address for you here. You will have noticed I'm here alone this week. Our usual editor-in-chief, Sadie, is not with me today, unfortunately, so it's just me. Hence the production levels won't be quite so on point, but please excuse me for that. But we're here to champion age diversity. As an organisation, we began a new campaign for this year to amplify the message of the values and the benefits of age diversity in the workplace. Unfortunately, although it is as wrong, as unjust and illegal in many countries to be biased and discriminative against protected characteristics, a number of protected characteristics, age generally falls down the priority list for many organisations. It's not a core value in some organisations, although it's certainly that three-letter word in a policy statement somewhere, because there's a legal requirement for that. In practice, it can be overlooked, and organisations are missing out on considering how a multi-generational workforce, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, can be so beneficial to an organisation. So these weekly live streams are here as part of that Making a Noise campaign, to really, amplify the messages of age diversity in the workplace. You'll see me putting some little captions up, particularly the Making a Noise and Champion Age Diversity hashtags. We really encourage individuals, organisations to use these hashtags, when using digital media in all digital media environments, just to really begin to get that message, that profile presented in the widest and broadest range. At our June the 11th Champion Age Diversity Day a couple of weeks ago, wow, it's 2 weeks ago already, time is flying. It was very clear from the live event that we presented that not only were there huge numbers attending live, something over 400 actually live at the event, but also the locations from where people were dialing in from was just extraordinary. We held that, it began at 1 p.m. UK time, and we did that to try to capture as much of the globe as possible. Certainly the earlier starters in further west in the US, but we also had organisations and individuals coming in from Asia, from Middle East, and from Pacific region even. So it really showcases that the age diversity question, the conversation, certainly has no geographic boundaries. And again, from the what we could see in the really active chat function from that event, no industry sector immune to the challenges or the opportunities, and many senior people dialed in as well. And we're going to again touch on leadership in a moment. This weekly event is really just to keep the presence of age diversity in people's minds, to have the the conversation, discussion, to allow everyone to participate with any questions, any particular issues, or in terms of challenges, but also, we'd love to hear about the good stuff as well. And, many organisations, many of our partners that we work with through our Champion Age Diversity programme have some really good internal good practices and behaviours, and going beyond policy. So putting policy into practice and implementation. So I say beyond policy, beyond strategy, taking those steps to actually actively encourage and invigorate organisations and individuals within the organisations to recognise those values and benefits. And I know we've mentioned this before, but we had for June the 11th, we had like a top 10 or activities of what organisations were doing on a day. We force rank them just to give some help and guidance and some added resource to what organisations could do. And by far the number one suggested activity, and what we learned through the day and subsequently, was to encourage a conversation between colleagues. And if those colleagues were from different age groups, then fantastic, but really get that conversation going to find out from our colleagues about their experiences, their technical know-how, their thought process, how they consider process and products and design and services. And just by having that conversation really sparks some new opportunities, not just knowing who your colleague is and what values they have, but by combining these experiences and competencies and knowledge and know-how, really can produce some innovative results and innovation in development of the organisation's performance in terms of output of, say, product design, service delivery, reflection of the market. Again, we'll touch on that in a moment. And I think I've said that 3 times now. So I'm going to move on, because one of the reasons for doing this weekly conversation is to discuss topical issues of the day, of what we see as an organisation going on in terms of in the media or blogs or surveys or research or articles. And we're trawling this stuff every day, as well as originating our own understanding and development of content and engagement through our Champion Partnership Programme. And I would encourage, if you don't know about that, then please send an email in to find out some more. And it's our flagship program of engagement that supports with help and resources organisations the journey of understanding how age diversity can support and develop a better working environment, but how it can really present fantastic opportunities for working across all age groups in an organisation, as an intersectional view of all protected characteristics within an organisation, how it can encourage better practices of recruitment, of retention, of skills development, ongoing training. So many positive aspects around individuals and teams working with an organisation that make not just a great place to work, which would be fantastic to have a happier, healthier workforce, but how that workforce, how that organisation then interacts with its customer base, how it interacts with organisations that it's worked with, either third parties, procurement, supply chain, how there can be better value for money provided in that cost of provision. So many values and benefits. And yes, so please make contact. We'd love to talk to you about how that works and how you can get some real immediate impact from just showcasing that you are a champion for age diversity. And actually, just looking over my shoulder, the champion mark is something that is available to our partners to utilise in their content, in their media, to really put it front and foremost of the values of that organisation, and that has an immediate positive impact on the internal workforce. That workforce recognises values of the organisation, and that that means them, that means me, that's the individual looking at, that means me. This is age diversity, it's multi-generational, it's everyone, it's looking to create behaviours and a culture of equitable environment for everyone, whatever your age. So yes, the mark is that stamp, that immediacy of impact, and there's commercial value to that as well. And again, really strong commercial value in terms of any situation where an organisation is maybe putting a bid together, tendering for new work, part of a contract. You see this a lot in the public sector contractual environment, where showcasing your organisation as inclusive and considerate of age diversity, in this case, absolutely provides leverage and an advantage for your organisation in that tender or in that contract or big negotiation. It's going to help. It's absolutely going to help. So as well as, and we talked about this before, going beyond the moral compass of, yes, of course, it's the right thing to do, but the business case is becoming really powerful, where organisations see inclusion as business imperative, and particularly as we transition from the COVID pandemic, those organisations with purpose, with reputation, where inclusion and diversity is centric to values of the organisation, really encompassing of social values of communities. These are the organisations that are not just going to be sustainable to survive, but actually be successful in that transition. So anyway, topics. There's generally something being said around inclusion and diversity more generally, and quite often there's something that's come up in this conversation, particularly with myself and Sadie, has been multi-generational aspects, and articles written and data produced. And this week, I'm just going to be, I've got them up on my screen here. We've seen a couple of articles where both in the US and where the first one is in HR Dive, and it talked about workers over 40, the age of 40, saying that they encounter ageism in the working environment. This is on the back of some survey data that was completed by an organisation called Work Labs, WERK Labs, and just to highlight some of the findings, just really quite interesting. And in some ways, and we've said this before about some articles, in some ways there's some conflict within the survey itself that I think we need to really break out and look to address in certain ways. But what's very interesting on the face of it, it's a pretty high level report. I think it's like 17 pages in total. A lot of those pages are pictures, but it talks about surveying over or around 700 people, individuals across the US, all over the age of 40. I just want to stop. That's one of the first things. Over 40, we seem to be. We've talked about labelling before. Within the diversity and inclusion industry, we love to put people in boxes, and none more so than when we talk about age diversity and the different generational groups that are out there. The baby boomers, millennials, and Gen Zs, and where there's now new labels being given, like between Gen Zs and millennials. You get Zillennials. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I was giving a presentation to one of our champion partners, and one of the organisers there said, I've just been described as a geriatric millennial. So, which doesn't sound too positive, but anyway, as an organisation, we've really developed our approach as a multi-generational approach, and truly multi-generational in terms of let's try to smooth those barriers or those potential hurdles between generational groups. So we really create an environment where everyone has the same opportunities for actually entering the workplace, but then once in the workplace to continue to develop and be the best they can be within that workplace. Generally, when people think about age diversity, I'm jumping around a little bit, but I will come back to this over 40 thing. We talk about multi-generational, and I was in a conversation with an organisation that isn't a champion partner with us this week, and we were talking about multi-generational approach, and they immediately focus on older workers, older people, and over 50s, which is generally where our societal view of older workers sort of starts from. That's generally over 50s is sort of the generally discussed metric, around the world. And so I thought it was just interesting that already in this report, it's looked a bit younger than over 50 to over 40. In our own work, we certainly see ageism in the workplace, certainly in terms of recruitment, around, real hits around the early 40s. And in the workplace, for continued development, we see training and development sort of begin to wane in sort of mid-30s. So, relatively quite early, if we look at those metrics of what an older worker is perceived and some of the challenges that they face. And we hear, so this just, I don't know how they chose that over 40, doesn't really explain that. But maybe they have a sense that that ageism is beyond the old worker, is beyond the over 50s, and actually by bringing the age group down, actually brings other, quite a few other people into the conversation. But park that for a moment. Out of the 700 individuals from a broad industry base, from tech to manufacturing, healthcare, retail, service groups. I thought it was really interesting that overall, 60% of the respondents to the survey indicated that they encountered ageism in their professional lives. So this is in the workplace, very much where we focus. Now, they described the 700 as being a broad group, let's say, from different industry sectors, whatever, but from diverse groups, from protected characteristics groups. It was interestingly weighted towards female respondees, around 60-40 in terms of female to male. And in, let's say, over 40s, with the majority of the respondents between the age of 45 and 64. And so over 60%, or around 60% of this diverse group from different industry sectors around this sort of rather expanded aged group believed, they indicated they had encountered ageism in their professional life. Now, if you think about that, it's quite a staggering, just that one statistic is staggering. And this is where, as well as the multi-generational aspect about getting that message across, that to encourage discussion, collaboration, partnership, working between generational groups within the organisation. This also reflects the opportunity that consideration for inclusion through the age lens really gives in terms of an intersectional view of an organisation. So intersectional, a way of supporting and recognising other protected characteristics through that age lens. 60% of people, and this really backs up our focus on how a view of age as a key part of the inclusion strategy within an organisation really does give some confidence, support and opportunities to include other protected characteristics. And not surprising to us, but it is found in this data. It really focused on that those findings really broke down into two particular areas within the working environment. That was in the job search recruitment side and those already in the workplace. And it seemed more indicated response of ageism on actually returning to work above those actually in work, although it's about 75% said it was they experienced ageism in work in the job search in recruitment process, but 50% of the total also said that they'd found it once they were in work that there was issues there too. And again, this is absolutely not surprising to us. And again, it's the recruitment side in particular is one of those fundamentals of inclusion, where an organisation can make again some immediate changes without upheaval, without additional cost. Actually, part of our Champion Partner Programme, because we have an employability side where we attract thousands of individuals who are looking for that support back into the workplace, for organisations to showcase their jobs through our network, give that opportunity to reach a demographic that potentially they might not otherwise see through, let's say, more traditional recruitment channels. We're not a recruitment agency by any stretch of the imagination, but we are that conduit to the demographic of where organisations maybe don't always see the best people in terms of their current traditional recruitment channels, and it also will help to ensure that people who are looking to get back into the workplace actually feel a little bit more that they have a chance. And I just wanted to point one other thing out that came out in this survey is some of the tactical approaches of that re-entry, and there's quite a lot being talked about the CV process. And if you've been following excuse me, our discussion, and you'll know that Sadie, who's just recently completed her college studies, within that academic environment, young people, 18, 19-year-olds are being told, oh, don't put your age on the CV because you'll be adversely impacted. What is that all about? As this reports sort of suggest, and certainly much of what we see anecdotally and otherwise, is that certainly older people are almost encouraged to, you don't put your age on the CV, don't put the fact that you did a certain qualification, because that will potentially pinpoint you to a certain point in time, which means you're of a certain age. Only put your last sort of 5-10 years of experience on, otherwise it makes you look older, and that's obviously bad. Come on. We really need to change behaviours and actions in organisations, because at the end of the day, they want the best people to come into their work environment, and by minimising and restricting this whole process, they're not going to achieve that. Professor Andrew Scott, who gave a fantastic keynote address at our June 11th event, talked about a few things about the whole multi-generational aspect, and I'm going to finish on this. I realise I haven't covered everything I wanted to cover, as usual, today, but we'll roll that until next week. There's another article I wanted to touch on, again, focus on the intersectional nature of older people in the LGBTQ community. Really quite a powerful article, actually, but really referring to how age has a more of an adverse impact on that community. And again, it's something we've touched on, come back to that intersectional approach a lot over the last sort of few months, is the combination of vocabulary. Particularly what we're seeing quite a lot this year is older women. So how older women are impacted adversely in the COVID situation, generally in boardroom presence, in opportunities for development, for re-entry to the workplace, older women. So that's the whole gender and age argument in 2 words, but it's such a huge issue. Now, big article, we'll talk about next week about LGBT, so we'll come back to that. But I just wanted to, I'll finish on this, just a couple of points that Professor Scott raised in his presentation. Again, when you say these things out loud, they're not a surprise. And sometimes we have to, reiterate things and, to reassess, to represent. But one of the consideration is, well, I hope we should have the presentation available soon. So if you want to get access to that, again, email us and we'll make that happen for you. But at various ages, various stages of our life, our brain is operating at various levels, but at any one stage, it's never operating at 100%. So the clue to that is, let's make the most of everyone at every point of the stage of their career, because at every point they will have something valuable to contribute. Professor Scott also talked about, again, some of the basics and fundamentals that we talk about all the time, the values of software attributes alongside technical competence, how that diverse workforce better reflects the market that we work in, and how lifelong learning is important. Again, that comes back to that thing I was talking about earlier about how training begins to wane and development begins to wane within organisations, because people are meant to know stuff. So why should they? How can they learn new stuff? And again, that's one of these myths out there that as we get older, we can't learn new things. Complete myth, completely untrue. He also did say a very strong point, and we absolutely agree with this as well as the responsibilities on industry to to recognise this. Of course, it's responsibilities on every individual to participate in that that process, that understanding, that way of working. But again, that synergy can only be achieved if there's common commitments and considerations and practices and behaviours on all sides. And again, through our champion programme, it's absolutely something that we advocate and look to support and instill with our organisations. So I recognise we've just hit the half hour. So much to talk about. We do find we are covering some very similar ground, but when people talk about multi-generational, I don't think they really understand what that means. It's not just about older people, it's about all age groups. So we can help that conversation, we help that discussion and how to implement and make the best, get the best out of those multi-generational groups. And that this whole intersectional opportunity through age is huge. On that note, thanks for watching, listening, and we'll be back again same time next week. Thanks so much for now.